Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Multifamily Monday. I'm Robert Martinez, the apartment rockstar. Today, I'm being joined by Ian Douglas, the head of Rockstar's operations.
Thanks for having me, Robert.
Yeah, we're super excited today. So, we're excited because we're about to close on our biggest acquisition as a company ever. City Crossing. It's 548 units. Is that correct? Yeah, 540. I always get the numbers confused.
It's 400.
I apologize. My dyslexia. 458 units. And hey, today is the big day. Today is the due diligence reveal. We're super excited. Now, of course, the purpose of this show is to answer your multifamily questions, how to get started, operational questions. Ian, tell me a little bit about yourself. Why are you qualified to sit here as an operator and run Team Rockstar?
Well, I've been operating properties now for over 15 years. I've completed well over 100 due diligences in my career. So
wow.
I really understand the operational piece of it and understand kind of the digging into the due diligence and trying to find money that's just sitting there.
That's amazing. So let's talk about due diligence, and that's what we're here for then.
It is.
So before we get started, what is due diligence?
Well, due diligence is your counterweight to the excitement of the deal. A lot of times we get into a deal and we kind of fall in love with it and say, man, I love this deal. I love it. I love it. My job during due diligence is to go in and find the reason to tell you, no, don't do this deal. It's not a good deal. So I actually go in with almost a negative mindset saying, how do I kill the deal to keep us from making a mistake and not being able to hit our pro forma?
That's crazy. I normally hear that response from Sam Morris because Sam's normally here with me on Multifamily Monday, and he's like the big naysayer. Now I got the other one in operations, but that's what you want. You got to have the people that don't want to do the deal. They're trying to prevent you from doing the deal because they don't want you to make a mistake. But you didn't find a lot of mistakes on this deal, did you?
No, actually, we found a lot of stuff in the deal that really kind of got me more and more excited about it.
Yeah.
The longer I went through due diligence, the more I said, man, this is a good deal. There's a lot of meat on the bone here operationally. There's a lot of efficiencies that'll help us really hit that pro forma and outperform it, I hope.
Absolutely. So you're out there, bring out your pen and paper because I think we're going to get a lot of numbers today. I think you're going to want to add this up in the kind of values that we find. So when you're doing your due diligence, your job is to get underneath the skin of that investment and understand how it works. Or maybe another analogy would be open up the hood and see how that engine's running. What's working, what's not working, what needs to be improved, what looks great, what you can best make a little bit better. That's what due diligence is. Right here, this is due diligence. If you're doing a proper due diligence, you got a binder like that. And you're going to have categories, all kinds of categories. Ian, tell the folks at home what you have in this book.
So from start to finish, I start off with the operating memorandum. Then I go into the CoStar, the industry reports.
Now, for y'all who don't know what CoStar is, CoStar is the leading market research firm. We pay $40,000 to $50,000 a year for this service because they got everything. They got exactly where the comps are. They understand who the owner is. They understand what they paid for it. They got everything that they shouldn't have. I can't believe they have the data what they have on me. It makes me feel a little victimized. What else we have here?
Then I go into the actual due diligence report. So the 167-page report that we have on due diligence without photos. Then I go into the property condition report. Then I have our underwriting model so I can see what our original assumptions were a year from now.
Right. Because as we presented or as we underwrite the deal 60 days ago, 90 days ago, when we first toured, we want to see what do we think it was and what does it look like today, right, after your due diligence. Right. So that's very important to see. And then you want to see, do I want to do the deal? Did some of my notions that I had, did they check out, or did it maybe go the other way? It's like, I really want this deal now because I underperformed at this. We can do a lot better, or there's some opportunities here to either go up in income or behind on expenses. What else we have here?
Have interior bids and exterior bids. Those are important to know what the costs are going to be. And then I go straight to photographs. And there's another couple 100 pages of photographs that show every issue that we have. Shows every color of the refrigerator, every crack, anything that was a repair or replace during the due diligence.
I wish you guys could see this, right? Because this is part of y'all's education. This is every single unit that we walked with photographs. And it should be the same photographs, right? The stock photographs. What does the kitchen look like? What does the living room look like? What does the air conditioning look like? But then in there, the team, the due diligence team, which is quite large, you need to tell me a little bit about the due diligence team in just a second. They're also going to identify problem areas.
Right.
So
and most of these photographs that I put in this book, instead of every kitchen, every living room, this is every issue. So this is every work order, every problem that we see that we need, from organic growth, which you just turned to that page, which is one of my favorite.
Organic growth. That's a very fancy term for
mold.
For mold. That's a very fancy term for mold.
unspecified organic growth allows us to not say the mold word, but that's really what it is. It's mold growth.
But I'm going to tell you, don't be afraid of that, because when
No.
I see that, I see money.
Yep.
I don't see black mold. I don't see I can't breathe. I see an opportunity to swim. I see an opportunity to create another distribution check, another passive check, because our job as operators, because we're not syndicators. We don't just put deals together and walk away and give it to somebody else. We are true operators. We're one of the few out there that actually fundraise and put these deals together. I've been doing this since 2007. I've got 4,000 units today. I've run over 6,000 units in my time. I've done 30 due diligence acquisitions. I've gotten pretty good at this, and I put my money with you dollar per dollar. I've created my own company, Rockstar Capital Management. We've got 17 city, state, national apartment association awards. I've recruited the very best in the industry. I don't want to do this alone. I don't want to make a mistake. I'm going to pay for that talent. I'm going to pay for that experience so I can get this kind of stuff. This is the most comprehensive due diligence we've ever had. And on top of it, I'm a pretty good operator. I'm the country's only 2-time national owner of the year. There's only one out there in the world, and that's me. And now I get to sit here with Ian Douglas, who you were running 23,000 units, man.
Yes, sir.
That's
Nationwide.
Just mind blowing. I think it's a lot to run 4,000. You're running like 6 times that.
Yes,
and
sir.
that's just amazing. So you need that kind of experience on your team. So whether you either develop it on your own or you recruit it out and you get them, because all the money you make happens on the day you close.
Yeah.
And I used to say it's price. I used to say it's location and banking. It's also the team. Best team wins. Every single time. The better your team is, the better you're going to perform. So super excited. Ian, what else is in here? Anything else to make you know?
Well, any other documents that we receive on the deal. So I have all sorts of, kind of not tabbed, but different bids, different information. Well, the sticky notes break out every bid based off of what it is, how much are my toilets going to cost, how much are my blinds going to cost, how many linear feet of wood do I need to replace. So it literally breaks down every linear foot of what I need is tabbed out and specified in here. So I know dollar for dollar exactly where my money's going.
Absolutely. Here's what I like most. There's a copy here. There'll be a copy at the office, right? At the leasing office. So whatever property manager I have in there, let's say I hire one and I think he does really great and he gets promoted. And now, I bring in a new manager and they're a little behind. They don't understand what they walked into. Or let's say you hire a manager and you know what, you made the wrong hire. We're pretty quick. We have high expectations. So sometimes not everybody's going to make it because they're running multi-million-dollar assets. Their decisions affect the valuation going up and going down. How they come into work that day, their attitude, how they dress, how they take care of the residents dictates what happens to the NOI. And this is just a review, right? The magic formula. $1 divided by the cap rate equals your valuation. So in this case, $1 divided by the 6% cap rate, which is what we pay for a city crossing, equals $17 of valuation. So every decision that they make can move that needle up and down. If they put a $10 rent bump on a 200-unit property for a year, they have made you $400,000 of valuation. If they put a $10 decrease in, let's say, water expenses or utility expenses, or they find a better landscaper that'll do it for $10 less per unit, you now add another $400,000 of valuation. Very quickly, on doing almost nothing but showing up and making an educated call, they have made $800,000 of valuation for you, our investors. So when you bring Ian into the team, what is the likelihood of qualified people coming in to make qualified decisions? What's going to happen to your investment? It gets me really excited to have someone like Ian. And I'm going to gloat and just gush over him, right? Because I've never had this kind of talent next to me. I've brought in talent over the years, and with marketing and then financing and asset management, and now with operations, to help me run that. Because at the end of the day, it's my name. At the end of the day, it's my reputation. The investors keep coming back, right? One of the things I'm very proud of is that during COVID, we did not discontinue distributions. We kept them going. In fact, I was told by many of our investors, we are one of the very few. And when your investors need that equity, when they need that cash flow, they need that cash flow. It doesn't matter if COVID's occurring or not. And for them to keep getting that check when some of their other checks didn't come in was really refreshing for them. And we built a lot of goodwill. Like, wow, you guys are as good as you think you are, right? The other big thing was we did a big refinance event. You remember that? Yep. That was 45 days ago. That was super exciting about that because we returned $4.5 million tax-free to our investors during COVID. Who does that? Who borrows more money and then is able to add debt to the property, and their investors don't get a check from Donald Trump, or they don't get a check from the U.S. Treasury. They get a check from their investment in Rockstar Capital. You know, every deal that you invest in is one deal closer that you get to your financial independence. That's exactly that. Every deal gets you where you need to be. And so it's exciting to be able to be on this side of the desk and be able to provide that. I think we've made more millionaires than I can remember because I got in with me very early on in 2009, 2010, 2011, invested in some of those early deals. And some of those investors are here today, and I hope they're watching. I hope they get a chance to say, wow, look at how Rockstar Capital has grown and evolved. But it's super exciting because the guy that delivered on that Westwood Village refinance, Aaron, guess what? He just accepted to be the new senior manager at this property. And he's super excited and because he's the guy that understands the magic formula. He understands reputation management, which is something else. You know, when I walk into a deal, I'm going to go to Google, I'm going to go to apartmentratings.com and anything free, and I'm going to read the negative reviews. I'm sure you read the reviews.
Absolutely.
And when your due diligence team are walking that deal, you're checking to see if that's true.
Absolutely.
I saw pest control. How's pest control at that property?
Can be improved.
Yeah. I saw some reviews that said that the offices, I had to do virtual tours because the office was always closed.
Correct. The office has been closed since COVID started. They haven't allowed anyone in the office. Even by appointment only, they're still not allowing people in the office. They'll take them via car to go to the unit, but don't do any discovery, don't do any talking to them to understand what's going on in the tenant's life to help match up their needs with the correct department. So it shows in some of their numbers.
You know where that comes from? That comes from an out-of-state owner. That comes from an out-of-town management. When you're trying to run something here and they live in another state, this is a big management company, but they're done. Their eyes are off the prize. We're here locally. This is not too far. What is this? About 20 minutes away? 25 minutes away?
In traffic, yes.
In traffic, 25 minutes in traffic, and we're gonna have one of our best managers there. So hey, you know what? I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into this. Okay. Let's talk about what you found. What were your expectations when you first walked into the deal? Because for me, this is our largest deal. I've been a little nervous about getting these bigger deals. You know, my career got started during the recession, and one of the earliest deals I had was a 384 unit deal, and it was nerve wracking during the recession. It was kill or be killed, eat or you don't eat. And luckily, in my previous life, I was a commission salesman. So I really understood that. But when you're dealing with millions and millions of dollars, when you're having to lease only to see them move out the same month, that's really scary. Tell me how this is not like that.
Well, it's not like that because it's a big property. You know, when you're doing a 100-unit property, when one person moves out, you just lost a point in occupancy. Mm-hmm. At 458, when one person moves out, it's not even a blip on the radar.
Oh, so it's not scary.
It's not scary at all. In
so
fact, you have much more stability here than
so
you
when
would
you're
in
saying,
because
a lot of our early deals were 100 unit,
correct,
125. When somebody moves out, you lose 1 point in occupancy.
Correct.
I remember we once had a 51 unit deal, and every time somebody moved out,
2 points.
And I'll never buy another small unit deal, but yet I was going away from the big unit deals. What you're saying is that bigger is better.
I like bigger is better. Yes, I would much rather run a 300 or 400 unit property than a 100-unit property all day long. You have the same amount of, for lack of a better phrase, Karens, the difficult residents.
Karens.
You have the same amount of difficult residents no matter kind of what size the property is. But when I'm at a 1-person or 100-unit property, I have one person in the office. So they have to deal with all the trouble residents, all the work orders, everything, and all the good residents. I mean, there's out of 100 residents, there's 98 really, really good residents, and there's one that you never hear from, and there's one Karen. Mm-hmm. That number kind of stays as you go bigger. But when I have a 458 unit property, I have 4 people that are there providing customer service, 4 people taking care of it. I have multiple salespeople whose only focus is sales. And so instead of going into doing sales, a lot of people say, with 458 on, I think I was talking to somebody this morning, like, those big ones, you have 70 in, 70 out every day. Uh-huh. Okay, 70 in, 70 out. That doesn't scare me because I have 2 people working on it. That's 35 sales a month per person. So when I divide that, it's 9 sales a week. And if my sales team isn't getting 9 sales a week with the type of marketing we're doing, then something's not right. We're failing on our closing, and that's a training issue, and that's easy. You just teach people how to close, how to understand, and it all starts in the beginning with the discovery and talking to people.
So let me jump in there because I want to clarify that, right? When you have a 100-unit property or even a 50-unit property or a 120-unit property, you're really contained to one person in the office because your budget doesn't allow for you to hire more than one. But that person has to be the property manager. That person has to control the maintenance team. That person has to lease everything. Oh, and by the way, they got to pay the bills and they got to walk the property. That is a lot to get done. I remember those early days, we had a 24/7 call center, which would help them with people coming in. But they would always leave to go walk the property or go towards somebody. Guess what? Someone comes to the door and there's nobody there. So when you're running a near 500 unit property, that doesn't happen because you have a salesperson, right? Because that's what they are. This is sales. This is everything we do. You got a dedicated salesperson who's sitting in that chair, and their lone job is to educate and inform the prospects and show them where their new home's going to be. You're saying they don't have to worry about really anything else.
Correct. That's their primary focus. Now, of course, when residents walk in, they're going to take care of the residents.
Yeah.
You know, a big part of that sales role is the retention. So, you know, that when using the 70 in, 70 out, 35 of those should renew.
Yeah.
So actually that renewal process is how well we take care of them from day one when they move in, from how does the apartment look when they first walk in? Do they get that wow, or do they get the, oh my gosh, what did I do? And so our job is to ensure the wow when they first walk in, and then take care of every issue proactively so that they know that we're here, we're going to take care of any issues and solve them within 24 hours, unless there's something else major that's kind of getting in our way.
So you have 3 other people there. Who else are there? Who else is in that
I have a community manager, I have a assistant, and then I'll have 2 leasing.
So 2 salesmen.
Correct.
Right. One's handling the calls.
4 salespeople.
Actually, you're right. I apologize because we're very big on sales. We are a sales company first that does property management. Right. That's very big. I actually think we're actually sales and marketing first, and that does property management, because I think branding is very important today. I've got a lot of videos on that if you want to check that out. But for sure, you are a sales company first. But you have 2 people who are dedicated to touring and renewing.
Correct.
Handling making sure the residents are fine. What does the assistant manager do in the middle?
Assistant manager is really kind of the driver behind collections. They're the ones that are collecting rents, calling, following up with the residents. They're also filling in and helping with the bills at a property this size. They'll get a lot of responsibility for bills, making sure the bills are put in, and overall just kind of making sure the property runs if the community manager's out of the office. Because in a property like this, community manager is going to be walking those 70 units every month to make sure we're doing pre-move out inspections. We're doing inspections once they moved out. We're doing make-ready inspections to make sure that they get the wow when they walk in the first time. So every time somebody moves out, they're going to be walking that unit 3 to 4 times. Every time they renew, they're going to be walking it probably once just to do a double check, make sure that they're taking care of the apartment. You know, we found at City Crossing, I have 104 residents that need to clean their apartment. And we know down to which apartment it is. And I have 2 that are hoarders that we need to kind of address when we get in there and kind of get them the help they need in order to get their apartment cleaned up. But I mean, that's the type of granular detail that I look for in the due diligence so that we know what to do.
So you have more division of labor is what you have.
Right.
You have 4 people at 40 hours. We all know it's probably a little bit more. That's 160 hours a week to take care of our staff. I remember as we were growing this company, I was the only person kind of running. I was doing maintenance. I was doing leasing. I was doing asset management. I was doing everything. And as I decided to go and get larger, I needed more help. It is amazing as when I brought in people, how my stress went down, right? And now I'm very fortunate. I've got a whole fleet of people. You want more, right? You want a revenue manager. We need this person. We need that person, an analyst. So that's exciting for me, right? Because it's more eyeballs. It's more high IQ type people working on your business. So when you're running a 100-unit deal, you got 1 person, and you're asking a lot of them. And guess what? They got family commitments at home too. Right? They got soccer games to get to. They have kids to pick up. They have dinner to be made. They have all kinds of stuff they got to do. But you got 4 people right in there, and that's really exciting in the office, right? So let's figure out what we found, because I know in the office was kind of closed when we first did that initial walk.
Right, we walked without ever going into the office.
But due diligence, you get full access to everything.
Yes. On due diligence, you require you make it as a requirement that you're going to walk 100% of the units. We did on this one, we got into, I forget the number, it was 97.2% of the
you know why he knows that number, you know why he has a decimal number on that? Because we actually have a nice software that we use that actually is able to track, right? And able to tell you which units you got into, which units you didn't get into, and it's all there. Which one? And guess what? That same software has all these pictures. So even if something were to mysteriously happen to this book, and the twin to this book gets lost as well, that software is on the cloud. That's not going anywhere. So we can always download it, reprint this at Kinko's or somewhere, and we'll be okay.
Yeah, this book is exactly mimicked in the cloud on our cloud drive, so that we always have it.
Let's go back to your unit by unit walk. So you walked You're supposed
97.2. There were only 16 we didn't get into.
Okay, wow.
We didn't get into them. There were a couple that had active COVID cases, so we didn't want to put our team at risk. A couple had some big dogs that didn't want us to look at the apartment. And then some people will change the keys and they just don't have a key to get into. So that kind of accounts for those 16.
It's very important that you get into every single unit as much as you can. To not only get into 16, that's okay when you got 458, because you're going to have the renovation budget. You're going to know worst case scenario, it's going to cost me this. And I kind of got to peek in, but I couldn't maybe go in for whatever reason. You need to know what you're walking into. Eyes wide open. You're walking into a relationship. You're walking into a marriage. And the way that relationship, marriage, significant, whatever it goes, you need to understand what you're walking into, right? Is there going to be some stress in there? Is there going to be some drama? Sure. But how much? Well, it needs to be calculated. It needs to be measured. This allows us to measure it.
Absolutely. And prior to walking in, we kind of did our underwriting and did an estimate of how much money we thought we were going to have to spend there. And once I got the full due diligence report back and the PCA, which is kind of the third party, think of it as a appraisal from an inspection from, or not an appraisal, inspection from a third party, it came back and we were within 3% of the PCA and the due diligence amount with our initial estimate. So
wow, that's because you got 100 years of experience, right, running these deals.
Well, between that and quite honestly, Sam and Dub underwriting it, they did an amazing job underwriting it.
Yes.
Our numbers were pretty dialed in, and the PCA and the due diligence confirmed those numbers. Now, some of the numbers shifted out of from the initial walk. We said, "Oh my God, we're going to have to do a lot of stairs." We put a big number in stairs. The due diligence showed that we actually didn't have that big of a number, but we had a bigger number in siding and wood, wrought and wood repair. So the numbers balanced out, but we moved the numbers to the right category to make sure that we're taking care of the needs of the property.
Absolutely. So you got to put together your renovation budget. You got to put together a pro forma of what you think is going to look like. And then Ian goes in there and basically tries to blow it up.
Yep.
His job is to destroy this deal because I don't want you to sign like this is going to be a $29 million loan, right? He doesn't want you to sign a $29 million loan if there's something bad. And so I'm really appreciative to Ian because I know how much time he was out there. I was out there just one day and he was out there almost every day. And it takes a while to walk and to do your proper investigation and due diligence on 500 units.
For 458 units, we had 12, 13, 14 people on site. Out of those, 12 were actually walking every unit. 16s with the iPads doing the inspection on it. Then we had one person doing the market survey, going out to the different competitors in the market to make sure we had the right competitors and we were placed right in the market and see how much meat we had left on the bone. Whereas the leader in this market is charging about $1.20 a square foot, we're charging about $1.07 today.
Oh, wow.
So when we look at that and look at some of the things that we found during the lease file audit, which had another, I think, 8 people working on the lease file audit.
8 people?
Right. So there were 22 total people for a week digging into this property, soup to nuts, to get us the data that we needed.
All right. So what I was just trying to say, 100 unit deal, we didn't have that kind of team. We could run those deals ourselves. I would do the lease audit. I would have somebody with me, maybe 2 people to help me make it go a little faster. The maintenance team would be out there, and what we did though, we had our own guys working this, and that's a lot because it takes away from your portfolio. We're actually able to work with a third party who, I buy maybe 3 deals a year. So our due diligence is going to be 3 times a year, but I'm not perfect at it. If you're a company that does this every single month, every single week, you start to work out the kinks, and we worked with one of those companies.
We did.
And that's really exciting that we're able to get that because I think that's how we got a more comprehensive approach, right? But also real quick, just a side note, I am receiving a bunch of questions, which is why you see me going to my phone, and I apologize. I'm not trying to be unprofessional, but that's my source of getting our questions. And I will answer all those questions if you stay in. I'm here for you. I have nowhere to go. So as soon as this webinar is over, maybe another 20, 30 minutes of the due diligence, we'll get into the Q&A portion. But hey, I love questions. I'm going to repeat again. I love questions. This is how you learn. Raise your hand, ask the question, because if you have the question, somebody else probably has that same question, but you're the only one that had the courage to ask. But you might be able to help educate the group if you get that question asked, and others benefit from it. So I'm a big proponent of that. I had a teacher tell me that once. I totally believe it. raise your hand, ask that question, and we will get that our question answered. Just let us get through the due diligence. All right, so boom, we're walking in. The due diligence, we split up, right? Due diligence guys, they go with their clipboards, they go with their fancy software, and they're walking everything, and they're trying to find what?
Trying to find any issues. So basically the way that we set it up is on every item. So say you walk into the kitchen, I'm going to say kitchen countertops, good, repair, replace, or not present, right? Because believe it or not, sometimes you'll find not present countertops or appliances. So every item in there, so it's kitchen countertops, kitchen sink, kitchen faucet, backsplash, all your appliances, flooring. So we do that rating on everything. So we come back and, when it comes to the appliances, down to the color, I have 115 almond, 185 black, 2 stainless, 136 white, and 2 missing refrigerators. I know that walking in the door. I have 174 blinds that need to be repaired or replaced walking in the door. So we know those numbers. We know exactly how much the appliances cost us. We know exactly how much the blinds cost us. So it's very easy to go, here's my exact number that I need for blinds, instead of saying, hey, I think I need 10 grand for blinds. I can say, no, I need $4,327.42 because I know that's how much it's going to cost me. So, getting that level of detail on everything. So when you walk in the entry door, we're looking at all the hardware on the entry door, the paint on it. Do I have overpaint on my hinges that are going to cause problems? So we literally look at every little detail as you walk in, and the way the software works is it basically follows you around the apartment. And you're typing in good, repair, replace.
So it sends you where to go.
Right. So it's, front door, living room, dining room, kitchen, bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bathroom 2, bedroom 3. If it's
have they partnered with a marketing group like Pizza Hut or somebody that you can order the pizza and they know that by the time you get to this unit?
No, but that's a great idea.
It is, right? Just totally. Show it to me. I'm like, hey, there's the marketing aspect. Pizza Hut, I got you right there.
I'll figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah. So we can do some licensing fees. So infrastructure. Walk in the inside of the units, but you also say you do a little reconnaissance yourself, right? With what you find.
Every time I walk in,
you go to a chatty bird. You turn into a chatty bird.
I become the most social person you'll ever meet. Every time I walk in and there's a resident present, I'm like, so tell me about, are you having any issues with your apartment? What's going on? What do you like about the apartment? Is there anything in the community you would like to fix? In this particular case, we were actually walking the exteriors, and there's water going into one of the drains, and it just kind of didn't make sense. So as I started walking through the grass to try and find where the water was coming from, you could smell it. And one of the residents goes, yeah, that's a sewer leak. It's been going on for 3 months and they haven't done anything to fix it.
And really, from when I went to the walk, they were showing me the highlights, right? And I'm looking, all I thought was there was some irrigation there. Yep. I thought it was just maybe at worst a pipe leak, or a leaky faucet. It really just looked like it had just rained. Yep. Until you get close. And you realize, that's not rainwater. That's something else.
It's raw sewage.
It's raw sewage. And that raw sewage has been there every day for months.
He's had 3 months.
Now think about children who don't really pay attention because they're children. They're immature. They don't know what they're looking at. Think about how many times kids have walked across that thinking it was just rainwater. And then they track that back into the apartment, or they track into mom and dad's, minivan or whatever, or they track it to their school. It's on their feet. It's there. And it was sat there. And you see when you smell, if you watch our due diligence video, because I did one, I didn't smell poop. I smelled money, because if we can fix that issue, we're going to increase resident retention. And every time somebody renews their lease, that makes us $50,000 in NOI, because that is a minimum of $3,000 to get that unit ready. So $3,000 divided by the cap rate of 0.06, and you get your $50,000. So if we can fix that issue, right? Because why do people move out? They move out because of maintenance. What are the maintenance issues? Air conditions, which is a day one item for us. Get into that in a minute. And also the staff. The staff doesn't care. And that's why none of them are going to make it with us, right? None of them are making it? Or a couple. Some of them, so I apologize. But the ones that are in charge of that, who are overseeing that, aren't going to make it with us. And they're going to get replaced by better talent, because you either have an expectation that matches our expectation or you don't. I want to live here. You want to live here. That's great. I'll shake your hand. I'll see you later, because I want to live here. I need you to walk that property. I need you to figure out that is sewage and that it's affecting your reputation as the property manager at this company. They cost themselves millions of dollars. In fact, this particular deal was part of a portfolio sale 1 year earlier with 40 other deals. And for whatever reason, this one and 2 others didn't sell. They're under contract now, but they were under contract for $2 million more. You know what? NOI was higher 2 years ago. And it wasn't because of COVID. It was because people finally got fed up with that. They got fed up with raw sewage. They got fed up with those kind of issues. But people who are willing to accept it aren't necessarily the people you want to live at your property.
Correct.
And that's what's occurred. They have lost value. They have lost value. And that's where we come in during this time with our improved management, and we're gonna turn it over. And that means staff. Sometimes that means residents. But this is a great spot, right? Because we're also going to turn over by improving on the aspects of the infrastructure. You also had a team that were looking at the mechanicals and looking at the waterproofing. Tell me about that.
Well, I want to get back to just the sewer that was leaking.
Oh yeah,
it's one thing if it only leaks when it flushes, but this was a continuous flow, which meant that I had toilet leaks and I had faucet leaks. So I had additional water that was just flowing out, and that's gonna continue until we fix the toilets, until the leaks are fixed. And that's literally thousands of gallons over this size of a property, thousands and thousands of gallons. It's money just being flushed down the toilet, literally. That you don't even know it's there. It's just that continual drain. Every time that toilet cycles on, it's filling water and just dumping it down the drain. And so that's a huge savings just by fixing the toilets.
It's amazing to mention that because we do a water conservation as every one of our renovations. Ian, how much are we going to say once we do our water conservation?
If we do the water conservation,
write this down, everybody.
Their bills right now annualized are about $171,000, about $14,256 a month. When we do our water conservation, we're going to have to see about a 35% savings based off of historical data, which gets us down to about $112,000 a year. So that's a $60,000 savings a year. When I put that at a 6 cap, that comes out to a cool $1 million just in the water conservation alone.
So it literally is money down the drain.
It is.
You've heard that expression, right? That toilet's running down the drain or the leaky faucet. That adds up. You got average 3 to 4 people per apartment, and they're flushing that 3 times, 4 times each per day. Money down the drain. Money down the drain. It's crazy. You got to all the pennies add up, because when you're investing in multifamily, you've got this magic formula. You've got this forced appreciation where $1 is $17. If you save $1 of water, you've added $17 of valuation. Ian is saying save all the water from flowing down the sink, and we're going to walk away with $1 million just in the water conservation.
And that's replacing all the toilets. So there is an expense with that, but the expense is so far offset by even the yearly savings. My return is so quick that it's a no-brainer to do. But then I'm also putting low flow shower heads, low flow aerators on the sink. So I'm just reducing the overall water consumption, which turns into $1 million.
Which is very green friendly, right? Yes. It was very green, but it's also green friendly. I like green. Do you like green? You like green? We all like green.
It's my favorite type.
So I can help the environment and I can help our investors at the same time. It's a win-win. In fact, you know who else likes it? The lenders like it. The lenders are willing to give you a lower interest rate if you promise to do certain green things that they feel are helpful. That's a government mandate. They get a little bonus from the government and they support that kind of thing. So they're really giving us a cheaper debt, right? Which, by the way, we're going to buy this at dirt cheap. I can't believe you can borrow 3% money on this, right, and buy a deal. We're going to get 3% money, but they're going to give us a little bit better rates because we're doing green, which helps the environment, helps our NOI, and puts green into our pocket.
Yep.
I'm going to come up with that. That is the green cycle. It's
the green circle.
The green cycle. All right. What else you got?
Well, electric. I was taking a look, looking at their electric bills, and found that for the electric that the property pays for, they're paying 12.5 cents a kilowatt hour, which in Texas, that's a very expensive rate.
That's highway robbery.
That's not paying attention to making sure that I'm renewing my electric contract year by year, which again is one of those operational efficiencies I talked about. But we also buy, since we're large enough now that we're actually buying electric at the wholesale rate, so we can actually buy it at closer to 4 cents a kilowatt hour. That ends up being roughly a $26,000 savings a year.
So we think we're going to reduce our carbon footprint, our use of electricity. Yeah, no, it's not really electricity. It's what we pay for.
It's what we pay for the electricity.
So we're just being a little smarter. You use electricity, I use electricity, the property uses electricity. But guess what? The property will get a cheaper deal. Same consumption, but a cheaper deal. We add more money to the NOI. They're paying 12.5 cents. They're not even paying attention to this. I love this. I love buying out of deals from out of market because they take their eye off the ball. They really do. It's not what they want. And they've gotten so big that they can't see everything, right? They have this is part of a 40-unit portfolio, a 40 property portfolio. You're talking tens of thousands of units probably in that. I mean, it's a lot of units in that. And they're not going to see little bits like that. They don't have somebody in the contracts review looking at it. And Ian found it. He just made us, how much money did you make us?
Well, if I put a 6 cap to it, $437,000.
So $1 million on water. We're gonna make how much again?
It's $26,000 a year, so $437,000.
We're gonna add $437,000 of value just by looking at our contract and saying we're not gonna pay that. We're still gonna use it. We're just gonna go with a different vendor who's gonna give us that 3.5 to 4 cents kilowatt hour rate, which is what we're supposed to be paying, just because we're paying attention. This is exciting. The numbers are adding up. I got $1 million there. So you just said it's basically another $500,000, right?
Yep.
So I'm at 1.5 now.
And then this isn't quite as sexy, but Telcom, they're paying $22,000 a year.
What is that?
It is. They have a lot of. It's really interesting. I mean, as I go through it, I've never seen this many telephone bills hitting one property. I really don't know where all these numbers go, and I haven't been able to verify by dialing the numbers that they actually work. But there's roughly $22,000 a year in bills.
How much should that be?
Should be about $6,000 a year, about $500 a month for a property this size.
Okay.
Needing 4 or 5 lines plus the internet connectivity. So if I take that $16,000 off at a 6 cap, that's another $26,000. Just in
20,000 savings,
26,000 in asset value.
Yeah,
so that's roughly 1.4 million, 1.5 million, a little over 1.5 million, just in those 3 categories.
No, I like it. I mean, you're a 5% owner this year. You're a 10% owner this year. You just made them $2,600.
Yep.
Who wouldn't like that? I mean, that's huge.
Day one.
And
then when we go in and we really start digging into the lease file audit, and
so that was the easy stuff, right? That's just kind of what you see. What is the lease file audit?
So in the lease file audit, we go in and we look at every lease. So we're pulling the actual lease file, opening it up, and
just like this. This is the lease file,
right? So we open it up and we look at page 1 compared to the rent roll that they send us, saying here's what we're charging. The system is charging them X dollars. They're charging them $1,000 a month.
So the rent roll is a summary of charges, everybody's name, vital information, but most importantly, when they're going to move out, when they moved in, and what they're supposed to pay. And that's what we use for our underwriting. And if we like that, based on that, then we decide to tour the deal. If it looks good, then we go into contract. Then Ian comes in during the lease audit file to basically confirm that this rent roll is good or that it's not worth the paper it's printed on. What did you find out?
Well, just in the dollar for dollar. So when I looked for the rent roll says they should be charging me $1,000. And when I took and looked at the lease,
when he smiles, that's good.
Well, we found that they were missing roughly, I'm going to say 7,000. I think it's a little more than that. But when I go item for item, it's 7,000 is the easy number, makes my math easy.
7,000 in what?
In rental income that wasn't being booked into rental income. So revenue that they should have been charging based off of the lease that wasn't actually being charged.
So let's slow that down. You're saying that there is $7,000 of rental charges that are not appearing on the rent roll.
Correct.
So just, this is for a legal question. The contract is what governs, not the rent roll. So if you have a signed contract, which you agree to pay this much rent, I'm going to live here for this much time, and these are the rules that I'm going to abide by, this is a legal document. This rent roll is not a legal document. It is a summary of charges. This is what I use to make my underwriting model with. You're saying there are $7,000 that are not reported in here.
Each month.
Each month.
Yes, sir.
And what are some examples of items that they miss?
Well, the biggest item that we found is they have a number of residents that are on housing. So they're supposed to be getting money from the housing from Houston, and that money wasn't being booked. So it was just a $0 amount instead of the actual housing amount that should have been booked into rental income. So I'm still, we still have 30 days left. I'm trying to track to make sure that money has been captured and that the properties actually received the money. And if they did, where the heck is it booked?
And then you have maybe, then you have like utilities, right? Like trash
Right,
and
and then
whatever.
all the utilities and everything on top of that.
So you're saying that they were supposed to charge it on here, charge trash or pest control, and they're not charging it.
In some cases, yes. In some cases, the housing vouchers had a $0 on the rent roll, so it said $0. They weren't paying anything.
So which we thought when we were doing that is a concession, an employee concession, a security officer concession, a corporate expense concession, something that says this person in lieu of something else is not going to pay. So we're like, well, it's zero, so we're not getting it. To us, I count as a vacant unit. We're not going to get that.
Right.
But you're saying it
but
was
they're not vacant. There was actually people living there, and actually money should have been being booked up towards the lease. And in the case where it was a zero, yeah, there were no pet fees, there were no utilities, nothing was being charged.
So let's talk about that, right? Because you know your numbers, right? How many? Let's talk about pets. Pets are an important piece because of all the apartment units, I think I saw somewhere that 62% of all renters have at least one pet. But of those 62%, it is rare that they tell management that they have a pet because they don't want to pay a pet fee. Right. How much is the pet fee roughly?
Currently at City Crossing, it's $20 a month, which is low. It should be higher than that.
Okay. So tell me why I'm excited about you finding out if their loved pet is on the rent roll.
Well, on the rent roll, we had 15, only had 15 pets that were on the rent roll out of 400.
So that already stinks to think about that. You got 458 units and there's only 15 pets. I just said to you, 60% of all renters have a pet. I've seen it. I've lived it. I believe that stat. You're telling me now that there was only 17? 15. So it doesn't smell right. So Ian and the team, they do their deep dive.
And we found in the due diligence, we broke down, we found evidence of 61 pets.
61 more.
Now, doesn't mean that there aren't more pets.
Yeah.
It's just some people take their dogs with them when they know you're coming in. So they take their cats with them to work or have somebody else watch them so that they don't get dinged with it. But we found 61 that had pets in the apartment. So that's roughly $920 a month that wasn't being accounted for. Which when I put that to a 6 cap, comes out to about $184,000 in valuation.
So you're saying Sylvester the cat, how much is each cat worth?
$20 a month.
A month.
Pet rent.
So that's $240. What's 240 divided by 0.06? Sylvester the cat not being on the rent roll is worth $4,000 to you.
Yep.
Fido is worth $4,000 to you. And you found 61 examples of Sylvester the cat and Fido?
Correct.
How much money was that again?
Roughly $11,000 a year. $920 a month, $11,000 a year, $184,000 in valuation.
So you see, everybody, this is what you do during due diligence. You go and you do a slow, deep dive on what it is. To me, this is low-hanging fruit. This is things that we will walk into this day one. I've added this up. I mean, we're well over $1.5 million. We're approaching 1.7, 1.8 because I don't think you told me everything yet. So day one, you're going to come in and you're going to issue a lease violation and say, hey, your cat's not reported or your dog's not reported. You need to leave or you need to pay.
Right. We'll actually, as a sign of goodwill as a new owner, we'll probably do a pet amnesty and tell them that they have 5 days to come and register their pet with us. And if they do that, then we won't charge them the pet fee starting out.
So you're saying they have an illegal pet, but
correct.
You're going to create
I'm going to give an amnesty program to just get them on there so I can start collecting the pet rent. It's just a sign of goodwill. If I come in and start hitting them with these $250 pet deposit or pet fee up front, then plus the pet rent, that actually causes people to get really upset with you and not like you as a owner. When you go in as an owner and you say, hey, I'm going to give you amnesty, but I am going to start charging you for pet rent. Like, wow, you're being really reasonable. We really like you. And that helps our reputation scores go up as being a good owner.
Oh, interesting. So you're going to enforce the policies of not the country, but the policies of the community.
Correct.
You're like your own little mayor, right? You're like your own little president, and we're going to enforce the laws that we've all agreed to live at.
We have a governing document called a lease. It says here's exactly what you're responsible for and what you're supposed to do. And either fortunately or unfortunately, I'm governed by the lease, just as the leasee is governed by the lease. So when we go in front of a judge, if it ever gets to that point, I have to show that we followed the letter of the law, just like because we're saying that they didn't follow. Fair. Right? They didn't follow the law. We did, or
for
the
housing,
lease,
right?
and they did. and that just provides us with the grounds. And we're always trying to be a reasonable owner, right?
Yes.
We don't want to go out and penalize people, and we're not looking for the lease violations per se, but when they're there, we definitely go after them and make sure that we enforce the rules.
I gotcha. Wow. So what else did you find?
Well, you're just kind of going in and looking at our capital plan, walking into the deal. We kind of had our capital plan and said, hey, we're going to spend X amount of dollars fixing things. And when I took a look at the work order, so over the last 12 months, they've had 2,794.
Oh, this is very important. So now we're going to cover into how to keep heads in beds. Because at the end of the day, the way you make money in multifamily investing is through the renewal. So you got everything you do is to keep that head in the bed so that they renew, because they are worth $50,000 to you of new valuation. So we want to make sure they're happy. The reason why people move out is they're unhappy. They don't want to leave. You're making them leave. You force pain. The pain is so much that now they have to leave. Right.
Unmet expectations.
There you go. That's you should be a relationship guru with like a little hat and everything. Unmet expectation. But what happened is typically you don't properly explain. They tell you, hey, and what happens, it's broken expectations, right? Because they've signed a lease contract. They've agreed that if they pay you this every month, you're going to provide this.
Correct.
Typically it's not them not holding up their end of the bargain. It's the property owner.
Right.
What did you find?
And like I said, over the last 12 months, there's been 2,794 work orders. I have 160 pages of photographs of work orders that need to be completed, roughly 1,000 more. So I have 1,000 people that have just stopped reporting because they don't, for one reason or another, they either don't want people in their apartment or they just don't believe it's going to get fixed. So they're not even reporting the issues anymore because it hasn't been taken care of.
That's likely what it is. It's unmet expectation in the past. So why do I bother with you?
Yeah. I'm moving out. I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm going to be gone in 2 months. I don't care about the hole in my wall or my ceiling.
Okay.
But when I looked at the roughly 3,000 work orders, I looked at our capital plan and took their work orders kind of in the top categories, which were air conditioners, toilets, plumbing, appliances, and windows, which are all things we have to address in our capital plan. And that equated to 2,220 of those work orders. So roughly 80% of the work orders are going to be taken care of in our capital plan, which really takes care of us being able to go and start doing preventive maintenance and taking care of the grounds better, making sure that the amenities are top shape, making sure that we're doing preventive maintenance, going in and working on the air conditioners prior to them breaking down, going in and making sure the filters are changed, making sure that we're looking for any issue before it becomes a big issue. I want the drip when it's a drop every 3 seconds, not a flowing piece of water.
Yeah,
so
I got it.
We look for the small things, fix those small things, because now instead of chasing down 3,000 work orders, I'm chasing down about 600 work orders, which is very doable over the course of a year.
This is really important because your renovation plan, your capital plans, as he used the expression, is your silver bullet between you and the guy before you. We're going to try to create a new brand. We're going to try to create a new reputation. And we want to increase communication with our residents. We want them to know that if they report something, we're going to fix it because I want them to stay. I'm sorry it's not working, but I will work on it right away. They'll remember that at renewal time. And again, if they renew, that's worth $50,000 to you. So you raise a comprehensive renovation budget, which means you got a lot of dollars in there, and you throw those dollars at the items that are affecting the property and hurting its reputation. And then what are some examples that you found of work order? What are the most common work order issues that you found?
Well, the most common were by far ACs. ACs were 3 to 1 in the next closest. So behind that was plumbing was number 2, toilets were number 3. Appliances were number 4, and windows were number 5.
So let's talk about that for a second, right? What do each of those have in common? Basic services.
Yep.
They've agreed to pay you rent. You provide housing. Within that housing, I want the basic services to work. What are basic services? I want my air conditioner to work. I want my water to work. I want my boiler to work. I wanted to shoot out hot water on demand. What was the other one? Appliances. I want my appliances to work. Oh, and by the way, when it rains, I don't want it to be leak on my head. Sounds pretty. Are they asking for a lot? They're really not. But as property owners, we are not giving them what they agree to pay. So no wonder why they put a bad review. No wonder why they leave. No wonder why they badmouth you and want to hold back rent or don't pay rent because they feel like you're not deserving of it. So our renovation plan is designed to take care of all the basic services. He said by far number one is 3-to-1 was air conditions. When we do a renovation plan, come hell or high water, we are going to replace all the air conditioning units unless they've been replaced in the last 2 years. Because one, you cannot live in Houston, Texas, where we basically have one season. And some days that season means it's 100 degrees outside or it's 80 degrees outside. But if you've been working all day, and anybody raise your hand out there, right? If you or see if you can identify with me, where you've walked into your home and the air conditioner wasn't working. I rent. I love renting. I've got a beautiful home that I rent at because I want to be able to move around and have flexibility. But when I'm done, I'm done. Just like renters should, right? Whenever they're renting our apartments. But when my air conditioning isn't working, I'm not happy. And one of the best things I ever did was rent instead of own. And so I can understand what it's like to have unmet expectations. You know, I'm paying a lot of money for where I live, and I want my air conditioner to work. The other day, I had a seating leak. I'm like, what is that from? You know, but you know what? The owners understood. They took care of it right away. They were there within a day. But I don't want my air conditioner going out. I don't want to deal with it because I'm a certain way. I want it cold, 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 and I pay for that, right? And I want it cold. And when the air conditioner isn't working, it really upsets me, and I start to get like little hives and sweaty, and I get irritable. And you don't want to be around me. Well, our residents are no different. They work all day long. Whatever job that they have, they want their basic services working when they get home. It better be 72 when they get home and not 82 because the air conditioning cut out. So that's one of the things that we take out. So you're saying again to summarize that our renovation will knock out 80% of the maintenance requests that are actively there.
Correct.
Now that takes care of the legacy stuff. You told me earlier that they have 1,000. How many work orders they have open?
I think there's just over 1,000 work orders that were currently open.
Right.
When we took a look at the work orders.
And what number should it be for a well-run property?
I would never want to see anything north of 80, and that's even probably being generous. 40 would probably be any given day or two. I'd probably get about 40 work orders in.
And then you try to knock them out every day.
With 5 guys on the maintenance team, I should be knocking those out as they come in. So I should be a net zero at the end of every day. So when there's 1,000
there and you're thinking it should be anywhere between 40 and 80 active at a time,
right?
What's occurred? Why is there 1,000?
Well, a couple of things, and it really depends. And until we can get in there and really start working with the maintenance guys, it's very hard to say, here's exactly what's going on. But in my history, they're just not closing work orders. They're actually doing the work, but not taking the time to actually do the back end of it to close it out in the system. They're cherry picking the easy work orders. So any of the hard stuff, pulling and replacing a toilet, they're just kind of leaving it there and leaving it in the file and not taking it to go and work on it. And others are, I hate to say this, but sometimes with operators that aren't being watched, there will just be difficult residents that they won't take care of sometimes. So between those 3 things, it's generally one of those 3 things. For the most part, it's generally they're not closing out. So when we actually go in day one, we'll actually print off all those work orders plus the additional 1,000 that I have in this book. And those will be our kind of first pass. And we actually have a team that will come in and focus nothing but on those work orders and go in, verify that the work was done and close them in the system, or complete the work and close it in the system. So that way we have a clean slate with our residents within the first month.
So as I mentioned earlier, I've got 13 years of experience. I've got 6,000 units of experience. I understand why work orders get created, and I understand why they don't get done. The number one issue you have there is you have bad leadership. Somebody is in charge of that, and it's not important enough to them. When I was smaller and I had 1 deal and I had 2 deals, we were focused on those kind of things. But as I move on, somebody has to fill the space behind you. There's a gap. I like to use the expression, mind the gap. If I move on to do something else, you got to be there. So as we grew, the same expectation was there. But what happens is that when we take over these new properties, that expectation is not there. Remember, I want to live here, but everybody else wants to live here. If you live here and the highest expectation you have for yourself, for your residents, you will win. Because you just will win. It's important. He just said 10 to 20% of the total count. So there's 450 plus units, anywhere between 45 to 90. That's where you should be. They got 1,000. That means they've been complacent, and there's a lack of urgency at the people at the top because nobody is holding nobody accountable there. There should be a regional manager who's holding the property manager accountable. On top of the regional manager, the VP of operations or whoever is looking at these numbers, and they're saying, why is your work order heavy at this property? Well, because they don't have the standards that the VP of operation has, which means that they don't have the standards of what the CEO has or the head of the company. That means the property manager doesn't have the standards to get that done. Hey, the guy we have at this deal, former military. I mean, just like you.
Yes, sir.
And former military guys are very unique. They follow instructions. If you tell them this is their standard, they will follow that standard. As long as you got the money and the manpower to make it work, the budget to fix it and the manpower to fix it, they will follow that. And what happens is people don't follow. There's no follow through. A lack of urgency, complacency, a lack of leadership, and no follow through.
Yep. You give me a team that will follow through and accomplish what they're supposed to do, and we can take over the world. That's not hard to do. Finding the hardest part of our job is finding people. Everybody talks about needing a great leader, but until you learn how to follow, you can never be a great leader. And so, we have everybody starting out wants to be a leader. I need followers first, because as you start to follow, you learn how to lead.
That's awesome. I feel like I got Patton here next to me. I'm so motivated. I'm ready to take that hill, run through the wall. All right. So I think that's pretty much it on the due diligence side, right?
Well, that's.
I'm happy. Do you want to?
Well, I could sit here for 3 hours going through due diligence, but I know there are a bunch of questions.
There are a bunch of questions,
switch
and I got soccer to get to in a little while, so I want to make sure we get to. So I'm just going to go through the questions. Somebody said, "Awesome, congrats, great selling point. Rockstar's a great team. How did you go about raising equity for your first deal?" So when I first got started in real estate in 2013, I joined a real estate club, and the reason why I like the real estate club is that in this club you're networking. And everybody wants the same thing. And within this club, you're going to have two people. And it's a symbiotic relationship. You're going to have the passive investor who is a doctor, they're a lawyer, they make a lot of money when what they do, but they want an alternative to the stock market. They need to invest their money with somebody. I was there. I was one of those alternatives. I wanted to learn apartment buildings. I wanted to understand. I got educated. I wanted to work on this day to day. When I got started, I quit my 6-figure job and I sat in that leasing chair and I learned how to lease. But as I did that, I gained credibility. And as I'm out there and I'm joining these clubs, I'm selling myself. I'm networking with people. I'm like, yeah, I've got 2,000 units of experience, or I've been running this. I've got 100 unit of experience, or hey, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to pay $10,000, $20,000 to join this club. I'm willing to go to all the education. Would you like to partner with me? I will quit my day job. I will run this for us. You put the equity in, you keep making your 6 figures, because you can't make enough doing this independently, but you can get your excess money working. And one of these days, you can have 21 apartment deals, get 21 distribution checks, and take care of you for the rest of your life. That's how it's supposed to be. So you raise your equity by networking. You raise your equity by doing these kind of webinars. You raise your equity by attending live events when those happen. And we're starting to come out of it with Florida, Tennessee, no mask required. That's great. The adults are standing up and taking control of the classroom. And we're going to start seeing open again. You're going to get back to those live events. I can't wait to go to a real conference. I think we're talking about going to California for the National Multi-Housing, and I need this to be over, because that's the best conference of the year in January, February. This needs to be done. The hell with the elections. We got to open up the economy and get back to it so we can get back to normality. So that's how you raise equity in the first deal. Hey, I live in Spain. Does this work in Spain? Do people rent apartments? Do people have unmet expectations? Does the valuation formula work? $1 equals $17. I think financing in Spain is the same as financing here. I think people need to eat, drink, and they need to have somewhere to put their head down. Apartments are one of the big things that nobody talks about. They survived COVID. Everybody wants to hear about the sexy ones, the Netflixes and the Amazons, right? But you got to have 4 walls and a roof to watch your Netflix, right? You got to have an address for your Amazon to get delivered. You got to have 4 walls and a roof to protect your food, your guns, your ammo, your gold, your silver, your family. You need an apartment. You need somewhere to live. Apartments survive.
And one thing in Spain is they're not really used to the institutional owner of apartments. They still are kind of more the small mom and pop. So the math works the same, but you may, as you try and get a portfolio together, that's not something that's super popular in Europe yet.
So they don't have 400 or 500 unit complexes in Spain?
They'll have big complexes, but they won't have an owner that has 20 properties. They'll have an owner that has 2 or 3.
Well, that's your advantage, though. Go in there
that
and do
is
what
an
I do.
advantage, and you're starting to see England has really kind of started embracing this, and so you started to see them really break out into it. So I'm sure that the rest of the EU is going to really start adopting it as they see the success and the institutional money starts.
So I have a goal to take Rockstar worldwide. And I knew Ian had a lot of national experience, but I also think he's got some international experience. I'm looking, where would you go If you were to invest in what country would you like to go that you think is the best environment for what we do, or maybe the least competition where we can stand out above the noise?
Well, again, I'm looking for a country that has that has started to understand the multifamily owner,
Hmm.
and that we do this as a business and not as a mom and pop.
Hmm.
So England is definitely one. If I had to go today, I'd say England's probably the best to go to right
Hmm.
now. I think in the next 5 years, you're going to see Mexico really starting to adopt this. You're going to start seeing probably the Spains, the Portugals, the France really start to pick this up and really be able to start moving into those areas as well.
I like it. England's expensive,
It is.
but I think you hold your value and you speak the language, so that's a big plus. Mexico is virtually cheap, right? Because the peso, you can get tremendous value. I'm sure the deals we buy would be a lot of pesos, but at least I can speak the language. And where did you say Spain?
Spain,
Yeah, that works
Spain,
too.
Portugal,
I
France.
like Spanish
So
food.
I think you'll end up seeing those probably over the next 5 to
Well,
10
Ian,
years.
let's make sure that's our goal before you leave Rockstar. That we're going international.
That's going to be a long time from now.
You
But
think so?
we'll get
Oh,
there.
that which one? That you
Me
leave
leaving?
Rockstar?
No, we'll be there long before I leave.
Oh, okay. Make sure that was clear. Hey, Ian, what is your software that you use for due diligence? What's it called?
Well, this particular due diligence, we used Info Tycoon.
Info Tycoon. What are some other ones?
There's Happy Company. There's Leonardo 24/7. Really, you need to find the software. They all basically are exactly the same when you actually come to the using and the reporting. Really, you want to find the software that does the best customer service and helping you set up your inspections. Make sure that the setup is the hardest part. So if you set it up properly and you put your dollar values in, then when you come to the end of the due diligence, you run a report and it says, hey, you need to spend $387,000.24 based off the findings of your due diligence.
Wow.
So if you don't do that beforehand, then you have to go and put all those numbers in manually. So make sure that you have a software company that will help you set it up front. And there are many more than just those three, but those are kind of the top three that I've worked with that I would recommend. They're all good.
Okay, so there's a few more questions. How many units were on government housing?
On this, there were
Percentage.
30. There were 32.
So it's less than 10%.
They were currently on government housing. Out of those, I think there were 7 that were on notice over the next 60 days, and it's something that the current owner's been phasing out. It was a much higher number. They've been phasing it out, and over the course of the next year to 2 years, I expect the number to be at 0.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of government housing. I'm just not. I'm sorry.
And it's not government housing. These are vouchers. So basically it's rental vouchers that are paid by the government. It's not true housing, so it's not government like doing the rent and doing all the qualifications for it. It's just they have a rental voucher that takes care of part of their rent.
Yeah. So you see, I'm not a fan of that. Here's my thought process really quick. I think you should have to work every day and pay and create that money that pays for your house. And I think that if something's given to you for free, I don't think you treat it very well. And as the owner of what you're living at, I don't think you're going to take care of my property. But I know that if you're working hard for your $1,000 rent check, and that doesn't come easy to you, right? Because that's $1,000 you could be putting to something else. You're going to have a higher expectation of me, and you're going to require more of me, and I become better. If you don't have to work for that $1,000, I just don't know how you're going to treat that place.
And just to be clear, none of them were 100% covered.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
They were 20%, 30%. I think the highest I saw was a 50% voucher. So no one was on the hook for more than $500.
Yeah, and just another thing too, and it's going to be something very unpopular, but it's the truth. People that are on vouchers, I guess lower income, right? Typically, there's a lot of friends and stuff. The demographics are there. The studies are there to show you that the lower income your property, the more crime you're going to have. Sorry, but that's true. And I don't want that. I want to make sure everybody's paying. We don't have those kind of properties. We have conventional properties. I want everybody to pay for their rents, because I think we pay for your rent. You're going to feel a sense of accomplishment, and you're going to treat it right. And since I'm the owner of that place, I want you to treat it right. I want you punching holes into everything. I don't want you not reporting pest control because you don't care. That affects your neighbor. That affects our business.
Correct.
And that affects our renewals. So infection control issues. Is there any COVID issues or anything that's active?
Well, yes, on every property out there are people that have COVID. We follow the CDC guidelines, and that when people are self quarantining and they let us know, we make sure that our team doesn't go in there We also provide full PPE for our team to ensure that the team is protected as much as we
So if you're
possibly can.
asking as a portfolio, look, I run 4,000 units and I have him as my right arm to run that. And he hasn't brought to me any kind of hot spot. I know right now in the politics, they're saying the White House is a hot spot. I don't know of any hot spots in my portfolio, or he would have told me.
There are no current ones yet.
There you go. So I think we're past it. I think people have taken heed of the different things. I see people today less and less using hand sanitizer. They're coming off it. I see less and less infections. So, you do what you need to do. I wear a mask because I have to wear a mask. The moment they say the moment we become Florida or Tennessee, that mask is coming down.
And,
right.
and ultimately,
So,
this is just like security at your apartment or at your home. It's your responsibility. You're responsible for your own safety. You're responsible for washing your hands and for wearing your mask. I can't do it for you.
Sorry. So we got 5 more minutes,
okay.
And then we're going to have to cut it. Did Robert decide to do recourse loan? Yes, I did. I'm going to put a $29 million recourse note on my head. I've got $400,000 of my personal money into the deal. My children and their mother have $300,000 of this deal, and I've got $29 million debt I'm going to put on my neck, which means that if something goes bad, it's my fault.
No pressure.
No pressure. I've done it before, but that's how you get ahead in life. You got to take those risks, and you've got to get ahead because they're really financing the deal. The deal qualifies for permanent debt. It does. And you're thinking, well, why did you take recourse debt? Because the terms on the recourse debt were better. I can get better leverage with the bank, which means I get better returns for my investor. And I'm all about making my investors happy. I'm all about returning the best numbers. I've got the best team. I know it. And I keep adding to that team to keep making it stronger. But I'm confident in myself as an independent owner that I will produce a quality product. I will produce a healthy return. And I'm in a competitive market. So I want to make sure my numbers are as high as anybody else's out there. I could take the safe way out and do the permanent debt, but it wouldn't be as attractive a deal to me. And so if it's not an attractive deal to me, then why would it be attractive to my investors? So at the minimum, my investors know my skin is in the game, both in my liquidity, both in my children's head, and now my head because I signed on the notes. What made this deal stand out? What qualifies it as a great addition to your portfolio?
Well, what made it stand out to me from quite honestly, when we went and did the first walk, just walking around the property, seeing 2 cars with windows busted out that the property manager hadn't towed yet. Just let me know that they're not walking the property. They don't see what's going on. And whenever I see that, I know it's worth, 5, 6, 7 cents per square foot in rent. And it's just those little details that get missed because I don't get out on a large property. This is across a major street from each other. So it takes discipline to get out and walk the units every day, walk the property every day. It's not something that just comes to somebody. And when you have a manager that's not doing it, you have a property management company that's based out of Atlanta that hasn't had a regional on this site for almost a year, the little things start getting missed, and they stop doing the little things. And when COVID hit, the management and the team there just kind of sequestered themselves. So when they sequestered themselves and stopped going out onto the property, when I walked it, I was like, there's a lot of meat on this bone that is just operational excellence. Clean is king. You clean your apartment, you make sure your apartment community is clean. And when it's clean, everything else can fall from there. But if it's not clean, they're never going to walk in to try and lease from you. They're going to just drive through, say this place is a dump, and move on to the next one.
I think he took the words out of my mouth. I think I would echo what he said. I think out of time operator always signals that there's going to be meat on the bone because out of sight, out of mind. When you tell me that the regional hasn't been there in a year, I'm thinking out of sight, out of mind. There's nobody overseeing the prison, right? The
inmates are running the asylum.
The inmates are running the asylum, right? And so we're going to come in there as the new sheriff, as the new law and order. We're going to bring down law and order. And I think we presented to you a lot of things that we found on day one. So I'm super excited about this deal. If you're looking to invest in this deal, hey, there is still room. We had some people that at the last second decided that for whatever reason they couldn't do the deal. So some unexpected spots opened up. We are closing October 1st. If you want to come into this deal, if you want to talk to me or talk to Ian or want somebody in our investor relations team, please go to rockstar-capital.com. Click on the Invest Now link, get registered on our portal, and you'll be emailed the investment information and see if this is the right deal for you. It is for accredited investors only, and it is $100,000 minimum. Again, I put $400,000 of my own money. My kids have $300,000 of their money, and I got recourse note on my neck. So you're going to get my very best effort. I promise you. I'll be watching this deal. So, hey, Ian, any final words?
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
It's a great time. It's also a great time to show you who Rockstar Capital is today. It's Rockstar 2020. We've been waiting to do a deal. We have not done a deal in a year. You are going to have our full commitment on this deal. You're going to have our full focus and attention. And I'm excited to present it to our investors. I'm excited to those guys that got the last refinance event. And I know this can be another success story in 3 years when it's time to do its refinance event. So that's how you make your money in multifamily. You invest it today, you plant that seed, and you harvest it tomorrow. Hey, thanks a lot. If I can answer any questions for you, please send me an email at info@theapartmentrockstar.com. Otherwise, I'll catch you next Monday.